Welcome and thank you for joining us for another Jane Irrigation training series. And today we're going to be talking about nanobubble technology. And I'll tell you why I really wanted to discuss this today. Number one, I know many of you out there are like me and are always trying to improve your soil health. Right? Soil health is really important to water management. The healthier the soil, the better you're going to do as far as yields and productions in your fields or in your gardens. Probably use less water. And if you're like me, on any given day, you can see me walking out to the worm bin, feeding my worms, using what they produce, putting it back in the garden. And it's a lot of work, but it's for a good reason. That's to improve that soil health. So I'm always thinking there's probably a better way to do this. Now, we had Warren from Moliere on a few months ago, and he was talking about this nanobubbler technology, and I was quite impressed with it. And it really caught my attention. I've been looking at it some more. And then I was talking to Frank Toves, and Frank has been so successful in installing and using this technology. I thought, here's somebody, right? Frank's works for irrigation design and construction. He works directly with the end user customers. His reputation's on the line whenever he recommends something or puts it in. The difference that he makes for his customer really is the difference he makes for himself and for IDC. So if anybody's on the line for making this count, making it work, and really getting the straight story as to whether or not this technology works, it's going to be Frank. And as everyone knows, when you think of forward-thinking ag technology, Frank's one of the first people that we all think of now. He's got a great reputation in this area, and I'm excited to talk to him today about nanobubbles. So anyway, Frank, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, Richard.
Yeah, so Frank, it's June 8th, hard to believe, right? This year seems to be just flying by. How's the season started for you this year?
Well, it seems like it kind of never ended. The last few years has just been a kind of a whirlwind with all the projects that we've had. And we used to have seasonality when it came to the work that we do, but nowadays it seems like the projects keep rolling in, which is kind of hard to complain, but definitely a difference for sure.
Right, it's become more of a management issue, right? We usually have some breaks with rain and a few other things, but it's just pouring in. That's actually very good, but creates a different issue. So anyway, I think we were talking the other day, Frank, and one thing I wanted to just clarify is the large number of installations of nanobubble technology that you've done in the past few months. This is catching on quick with your customers, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you mentioned, we're pretty hesitant when it comes to using just any product line. We get approached a lot, and we do a lot of vetting, and there has to be a lot of research, a lot of independent research, and the nanobubble technology, I'll be honest, was kind of sketchy at first, or we were a little skeptical because we've seen a lot of other things that sounded similar, but after going through all the trainings, doing all the research, we learned that there is 100% of benefit in using this technology when it comes to ag irrigation. And I think since we introduced it into our product line, we've had some really great successes.
Yeah, it's great to hear, and I mean, I'm certainly sold. I wish the technology was a little less expensive. I could put it in at my home, but I think that's coming. I think we're actually going to see that soon. But you'd know more about that than me. But anyway, just to get started, what maybe you could help us out and just kind of define what nanobubble technology is.
Well, it's kind of in the name. I mean, a nanobubble is a nano-sized bubble. So nano being about 2,000 times smaller than, say, a grain of salt. So, which is extremely tiny. And what it does is that it helps improve, like the slide says, the water quality and all the industrial processes through aeration, flotation, and oxidation. So the difference between a nanobubble and just a regular bubble or a micro bubble is not just the extreme size difference, but these bubbles, they don't gas off, they don't rise to the surface and burst where you lose that oxygen, right? So this stays in suspension, moves in the water. That's one of the main differences.
Yeah, so I just want to remind everybody that we do have the chat and the Q&A open today. So if you've got questions or want to make some comments, drop them in there, and I'll definitely relay these questions and comments to Frank. So, so Frank, is the key here that the nanobubbles are so small? Is that what the big difference is, right?
Yeah, the size and the characteristics of them not gassing off allows us to introduce oxygen and a higher dissolved oxygen content into the water, which is in solution for weeks and months in some cases, right? And allows us to get those gases where we want them, which is at the root zone at the soil that you mentioned.
Yeah, so these are so small, right? 2,000 times smaller than a grain of salt. We can't see them. How do you know they're actually working?
Yeah, good question. So because you can't see them, you kind of have to depend on the results, right? And that was one of the tough things for us is we saw the research and we saw the both the in-house and independent research, all the case studies, but until we actually put one of the systems in, it was really hard to believe that it was going to work. And the first system we did, what we were targeting, the results were almost immediately visible. So I think that's how you see that it's working, is the end result.
Yeah. Okay. So it's visible, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So and so how on the practical side, right? I'm very practically natured. How do they actually work? You hook up a machine. What is this like? Where do you put it? Can you step us through that?
Yeah. So we partnered with a company out of the Southern California called Moliere, and they're the leading, I would say, leading company behind this technology, and they have nanobubble generators. So what they do is they basically diffuse gases and inject these nanobubbles into the water, into a stream of water, and that's how you get them in there. So they have a machine, several types of machines to handle different flow rates that create these nanobubbles.
And you install it where about on the line, right? Before your fertilizer injectors, where does all this go?
The most common applications are when you have a stored body of water. So reservoirs, ponds, lakes. In indoor farming, we do a lot of tanks. So those are probably the most common types of installations, but we do have inline systems as well that can go, say, on an ag well or an existing pumping system.
Yeah, so it sounds like almost always upstream of the valves, and you can approach it in a big way that way, your biggest body of water.
Exactly, yeah. So, and there's some systems later on in the slides that I'll show you that have, flow ranges from 10 gallons a minute to 5,000 gallons a minute.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, so those are some big systems. So yeah, so my next question, touches on, well, how does this actually work? And I think you've pretty much talked about this already, but anything to add to this this slide?
I will say that there are several other companies that have technology like this, but I think Moliere is unique in how they do it. And I think listening to Warren's webinar will be extremely helpful on the exact science behind this, how it works. I'm not the engineer, but we know pumping and we know fertigation, we know water. So basically, like it says, it's we're diffusing the gas through the open flow water system.
Okay. All right, great. And Frank, is there an industry that has really, this has really caught on with right now? Somebody, a group where it's kind of had a domino effect, or do you just see it spread out through all ag products?
I think initially where we've placed these products has been in indoor farming. So vertical farms, greenhouses, a lot of cannabis facilities. So anywhere where we we were already storing water and we had water treatment issues, is where the bulk of the success that we've had. And we're now expanding into, larger reservoirs, your traditional ag applications, a lot of hydroponics. So anywhere where water is stored, or you have some type of water quality issue, or you just want to see a benefit of oxygen in your water, is where we're putting these. So cannabis, obviously the early adopters, those growers tend to adapt to technology a lot quicker. But now we're seeing more and more success with the hydroponic berry growers, and a lot of other growers who have reservoirs, for example.
Yeah, so Frank, we're getting a couple questions coming in, but before we get to those, I just want to say, yeah, it's interesting. I found the few cannabis growers I do talk to, they seem to have a level of interest that is very high when it comes to water management and how they feed their plants, right? They get the correlation between nutrient and water. Do you find that too? And if you do, why do you think that is?
You do, and especially with the growers who are growing indoor or growing in greenhouse or another controlled environment, is they can see the runoff of the water that they're applying. And in most cases, the growers that we're working with are also measuring it. So if you have, 10% drain and growing in a substrate media, you don't have a lot of room for error, right? And not only do you have to collect and treat that drain water, but you also have to be providing the most accurate, the most chemically free, the healthiest oxygen rich water that you can to your plants. So I think those growers are definitely more conscious in some cases when it comes to the quality of the water they're applying, because for them it's limited, and the area that they have to work with the water is very limited in most cases.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. That's interesting. So one of the questions that's come in, and boy, it's a tough technical question. I'll say that for sure. But how many machines would be required for, say, a typical aeration of a lagoon with 100,000 gallons of water? I know that's kind of off the cuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's really what it comes down to is the dwell time of that water. So, how often are you filling that lagoon with new water? How often that water is leaving that lagoon, or is it just stagnant, right? So we work with Moliere to size these systems for the appropriate application, and it really comes down to how many times we need to touch that water and what the target goal is. So if it's algae control, like this clear system shown on this picture, where we're just treating say a pond or a recreational area of just water, then those systems can be a lot smaller. But if we have a reservoir for an ag application that's using a ton of water daily and introducing new water to that reservoir, then we could have several units just to keep up with that demand. So it really depends on the application, but a fairly easy exercise to do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting, right? It's a math. So, and
Yep.
then how about nanobubble oxidation of iron in water? You have any experience with that, or?
This has recently come up with a lot of the ag wells in some of the southern areas we work with, having a lot of iron bacteria problems. We haven't actually installed anything for this specific application, but we are working with Moliere to come up with a solution for that issue as well, because the adding oxygen with a nanobubble to your water is a natural oxidant, right? So we're working on some testing to determine how we can do that effectively.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. And then we had another question here about using nanobubbles with a normal drip irrigation system to help improve crop yield. Have you seen that? Has it worked? What do you know there?
Yeah, when it comes to crop yield, I know we're pretty leery when discussing that, because a lot comes down to the grower and a lot of other varying factors. But just inherently, if you're improving the water quality, improving the good bacteria in your water, increasing the dissolved oxygen. And if you just do that, you will most definitely see some improvement in your crop yields, right? We're lucky to work with a lot of good growers. So the benefits they may see may not be strictly yield driven, but more so the other benefits of this technology, keeping your lines clean, healthy roots, right? So if you have a huge yield increase, great, but we really strive to push the other aspects of this technology that we see are really, really beneficial. But we do have growers that do have yield increases, and they will tell you that it's strictly because of the nanobubble technology.
Yeah. So, okay. So, right. It's always going to be a combination of factors, but certainly this would be a big factor.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Frank, you must have some interesting installations you've done over the past few months or years. Any in particular you'd like to talk about right now?
Yeah, this picture on the left of my screen is a Neo system from Moliere, and it's probably one of the most common systems that we install, mainly on tank farm type systems, some outdoor reservoirs, and that's probably the most common unit that we've installed. These bigger units here in the middle on the right are obviously a lot larger. The one in the center is a containerized unit. The one on the right is actually on a trailer that's available for rent. So these treat higher volumes of water. Like I said, the Neo on the left, I think, is a Neo 150, so it's 150 gallons a minute. Or the one in the center, I believe, can do about 1,000 gallons a minute. So yeah, it just depends on the application. And we've done, from the smallest, and we're working on some very, very large applications right now. So
yeah, very nice. And so does it matter the geography, or are you starting to see this become popular all over?
yeah, I mean, with the increased interest in controlled environment ag, I think more and more growers are looking at this technology as a standard practice to their operations, right? And installation is easy as a pump. It's inlet outlet with some minor specifications. These units that you see here on the bottom right is the new unit. That's a small 10 gallon a minute unit called the Lotus, and that Titan unit in the middle can handle upwards of 5,000 gallons a minute. So, outside of just ag irrigation, there's wastewater treatments for this and other applications that we don't necessarily do too much of. But for ag irrigation, I think with all the water issues we have, especially here in California, you're going to start seeing more and more of this type of technology, and these specific units become standard for a lot of growers.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Now, a couple things here. The technology comes laid out in this type of setup, so I really don't have to do much to install it.
No, I mean, if the grower wants to install it themselves, we have kits available. Our technicians can come out and commission it. It's really as simple as some basic programming and some basic plumbing. I mean, all of it's packaged and ready to go. Some of the units do require external oxygen, but a lot of them have onboard oxygen generators. So it really is something that once you get past the does it work phase, just it's an easy purchase, right? And a quick ROI, especially if you're using chemical treatments to try to accomplish the same goals.
Yeah, talk about a clean, nice setup. Boy, that's really attractive to me. And then the one on the bottom right, the green one, this is the one I've been waiting for, right? This might have applications in landscape also.
Exactly, it's 10 gallons a minute or 1,000 gallons per day. So very small, compact, really designed for growers who are smaller, even some landscape applications for sure.
Yeah,
that should be available this year. So
yeah. I'm excited for that one in particular. So, Frank, have you noticed any positive effects on reducing scaling in drip lines as a result of using this technology?
We have actually some of the first installations that we did were specifically to target um, buildup in PVC lines in an indoor growing facility. So what we found was a lot of growers aren't as stringent on their flushing programs, or sometimes there's a lot of precipitants in the nutrients they're using. So the nanobubble technology actually helps keep those lines clean and scour those lines to clean them initially. Once we got past getting all that stuff out of the lines, we found that the lines have remained clean, which is huge for a lot of guys, especially when these facilities are a lot of on-demand drip systems, so the lines stay charged for the most of the time. So it's really important that they stay clean.
Yeah, I think about what a nice advantage that is, right? Not to have to worry about that, not to have to inspect necessarily as much for that, and more importantly, not having to repair or deal with in any problems I had as a result of the scaling.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen some scaling inside PVC lines that have reduced the inside diameter of those pipes by half. So it's pretty amazing, and pretty quickly as well.
Yeah. So Frank, any other large installations or small installations, we don't care, that really come to mind where you think, wow, that really made a big difference?
Yeah, I mean, there's some hydroponic strawberry operations that are dependent again on the water quality that they're providing to those strawberry plants in a really small substrate media. So by increasing the dissolved oxygen in those cases through nanobubble technology, we have seen some really benefits of nutrient uptake, just overall plant health, and again the benefit of keeping those lines clean. So we're like I said, we're going to start seeing more and more of this on your traditional growing applications as well. Once we get some more inline units installed, I think we can talk about those benefits too.
Okay, great. So Frank, if somebody wants some help with this or has additional questions, okay if they reach out and get a hold of you?
Yeah, like always, you could find me on the gram. So, and then there's my email down there. Feel free to reach out. If we don't specifically know the answer, I'm sure we could find it. And like I said, IDC has 8 locations in California, so we're here to help.
Yeah, and what a generous offer, actually. I hope everybody's really understanding that Frank's sincere in this. If you need some help, have some questions, or think of something later on that you wanted answered that we didn't cover today, please reach out and do it. He'd be happy to help you out. He's got a real passion for this, and he really lives, breathes, and talks this every day. This is what he does. And he does it because he loves it. So Frank, thanks so much for being on today. This was really interesting and helpful. And like I said, I can't wait to get the one of these Molières going at my place. So thanks very much. And
definitely appreciate it.
Say thank you to everybody who tuned in today. We appreciate you spending some of your day with us. As you know, you can see all our trainings at the janesusa.com website /trainings, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I love that we can be working and learning at the same time. It's one of my favorite things to do. So anyway, Frank, thanks again. We really appreciate it. Thanks to all of you. And we'll see you back here Friday. We're going to be talking about some ag tech and how to best check your soil moisture sensors to make sure they're actually doing the job they're supposed to be doing. So that'll be kind of a fun one for Friday. So thanks again, everybody. Appreciate it, Frank. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.